Long-term viewers of this channel may find what I'm about to say to be hilarious, but this video is intended to be short. What this is a series of sections of an episode of actual play, not mine, that I have been asked to take a look at and give my opinion on. Now, since that initial request, this project has changed a little bit, which makes me very happy. This is letting me do something that I've wanted to do for years, and we've come very close to it at time to time on the channel. If you go and look at our long-running All for One Regime Diabolique campaign using the Ubiquity role-playing system, a game published by Triple Ace Games, if you go there, you'll see that there's lots of actual play. At the end of every session, we have discussion about play, and then each player records a session of recaps and their reflections on play. So we are talking about the in-character perspective of play. We're talking about the out-of-character perspective of play. We're talking about the perspective of play from the game master, from the point of view of a player. And because that was a round-robin campaign where each time someone else was running the game and other people were playing the game, we can share this perspective very fully. But that's still not exactly what I have been hoping to be able to include as a part of the process of exploring role-playing games here on the channel. But now, with the help of Craig Shipman from Third Floor Wars, this is, well, taking another step toward, realizing the idea of what I think might be valuable and interesting, and hopefully both. So what am I talking about? Well, we're talking about is a workshop. Someone runs the game, someone else who is not intimately connected to running or playing in the game watches the game and offers their feedback or their observations, not to change what that person is doing per se, like you're doing it wrong, but rather to spark discussion about what was done, why it was done, how it can be done differently, why it should not be done differently in this particular circumstance, what it's possible simply to do, right, to expand our palette of options and create a dialogue, a dynamic dialogue between two game masters about a moment of play, where we have insight into the inner workings of the game master's mind, where we hopefully will have insight into the inner workings of a player or a group of players' minds, and of this observer who's there to, as I say, instigate, spark, or in some way guide discussion or debate. So the initial request to take a look at the video turned into about 1 hour of feedback, which was also intended to be video, but turned out, because of technical reasons, to become an hour of audio, which I'm not really going to share, but I can summarize here at the beginning of this clip. At the end of episode 1 of the session, which was observed, which was running one of the scenarios from a Chaosium release for Call of Cthulhu for the 7th edition. That collection is called Does Love Forgive? And the specific scenario was called Mask of Desire. Now, at the end of the first episode of Mask of Desire, the feedback revolved around some key points. One, that the player, and this was conducted as a one-to-one session, the player did not have the opportunity to do very much. They were on the receiving end of a lot of information. That, of course, stated baldly like that, can come across as a negative. When you watch the episode, you will see that it's not entirely negative and that the player did not leave the session with a negative experience. But they did remark at the end of the session that they were looking forward to having more opportunity to do things. So it wasn't unnoticed that they were being guided through a social maze and being introduced to a series of non-player characters. They noticed it was entertaining. If it were to continue, it would be a problem, right? So sometimes feedback can seem very direct, very bold, very harsh, when in fact it's just meant as, look, I see a thing. Do you see the thing? And now let's talk about the thing. So what this video that you're about to watch is, and already this introduction has made it something other than brief. It's a series of recordings from the session, and then I'm going to simply ask questions about what we've just looked at. So without further ado, here is the first snip from episode 1 of Mask of Desire, a scenario for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition from the collection curated by Lynn Hardy, called Does Love Forgive? The game master is Craig Shipman of Third Floor Wars, and the player is Nick Westerville. Okay.
So we fade in from black, and we see the Manhattan Bridge. New York City, it's the bridge that connects Brooklyn to Manhattan.
So here's my first interjection. Fade in from what? Why? What does this establish? What could be done differently? And why would we do it differently?
White lettering comes up at the bottom of the screen that says New York City, November 1921. 1921 New York. Prohibition is over a year old now. We haven't quite seen the mob start to really flex its muscles yet. Things are still being smuggled in by amateurs from Canada and Mexico. We really start seeing organized crime become a huge factor in about a year or so. Babe Ruth just hit his 138th home run. Al Jolson and Paul Whitman and his orchestra dominate the radio waves. And Charlie Chaplin's The Kid is still in the picture houses. Warren G. Harding is president. Albert Einstein just won the Nobel Prize for Physics for his general theory of relativity.
For the second interjection, this is in the same part of the video. This is the introduction of the session. This is the introduction of the entire series of episodes that go into the actual play of this adventure, so to speak. And what's happening? What information are we hearing? To whom is the information addressed? And why? How much time does it take? What kind of information is chosen? On what or on how many levels is it relevant? Meaning an audience level, a player level, a character level, a specific scenario level. What is being said? Why is it being said that way? What effect does it have?
The camera comes closer to Manhattan Bridge, and you realize in the center of the screen is a yellow cab. And the camera follows that yellow cab as it crosses into Lower Manhattan. We smash cut to the interior of the cab. And we see 3 people sitting in that cab.
Here we can interject and refer back to interjection number 1, when we talked about fading in from somewhere and for what specific purpose, what specific effect are we communicating between game master and player in this way. Now here we're talking about very overt, very express camera angles and views and perspectives. We see 3 people sitting in the back of a cab. Who are we?
On the far left, we see Lucas. He's a handsome man in a very expensive black suit. In stark contrast to that, though, he sports a full beard, where at a time when facial hair was not fashionable. And what's even odder is he's got almost shoulder-length black hair, which in 1921 was unheard of. Next to him, sitting in the middle, is Anna. Her hair, in contrast to Lucas, is very stylish. It's short and a stylish bob with very stiff and deliberate waves. And she's got a curl that she has styled onto her forehead. She's wearing a very fashionable flapper dress. To the left of her is Curtis. So, Nick, can you describe Curtis for me?
Yeah, Curtis, tall, lanky, young. He's definitely young. He's got a little bit of a mustache, like he's or a beard, like he's trying too hard, but it's just not working. I think he wants to be just like his good friend over there, Mr. Lucas, but it's just not getting there. He not much else of note. Kind of the general person. He does have kind of a little kink to his nose, like it's gotten punched a few times, sticking his nose where he doesn't belong. But other than that, he's clean cut and ready for the night on the town as needed.
Now, I let it run for quite a while as we get the descriptions of the two non-player characters. We completely ignore the cabbie for obvious reasons. And then the player gets his first opportunity to speak, and what he's doing is following in the footsteps of the game master who described the other characters on a purely visual level. No commentary, no opinion, right? No speculation on why Lucas's hair is long, for example. You know? And then Nick proceeds to show us what his character, Curtis, looks like, with some inner commentary about maybe why he looks that way, a hint about the friendship that we're going to learn more about between him and Lucas. It's pretty interesting. Remember, the comments, the questions I'm interjecting here are not pointing at errors. They're pointing at specific moments of play. Might be a technique, it might be a stylistic choice, it might be, a beneficial interaction of things. Neither positive nor negative, wholly positive, wholly negative. Right? It's up to you to decide. And the purpose of the video is to spark conversation about what we do in play and how we do it. This next section occurs after our two NPC characters and player character arrive at their destination, at this party, this upper class party, where only one of them is going to feel at all comfortable on the social level, and that's the character of Lucas. And the other two are definitely from a much lower social and economic tier. They're going to be uncomfortable. And one of them, Anna, the NPC, she's there hoping to get a leg up for her future tomorrow. This is a situation which makes her very uncomfortable, and which is one of the primary sources of motivation between the characters for interaction as we arrive and as we carry through the entirety of the session. This is the beginning of the major through line of what this scenario is all about. How do these three characters feel about each other? It's not really a scenario about what happens to them, although we get to enjoy that too. So, as a result of who these characters are, as a result of what has happened so far, we get the next scene.
As that door closes, the door to wherever Lucas and Madame de Tesson were opens up and comes out. Lucas looks as agitated as he sounded as you listen through it, and he shoots you a look and he goes, "What are you doing, Curtis? I thought you were like, there's a lot of important people here. We need to get Anna in front of these people. Why are you hanging out here in the hallway?"
Oh, Anna had to use the restroom. I just walked over here. She'll be right out. Give her a minute.
She's a grown-ass woman. We have to accompany her to the restroom?
Hey, calm down, Lucas. This isn't right. Just calm down. We're here for Anna.
Tonight's a big deal, right? Do you understand? Do you understand what's at stake here? Like, this is her entire dream tomorrow night. And there are people here that can influence whether she gets this audition or not. And you're screwing around. Like, you want her to fail. I can tell you want her to fail. Is this because that you guys aren't together anymore? Is that what this is about? And now you want to sabotage her? Because I'll tell her that.
Is Madam the Madam
she's floated away.
Sight, she's floated. Curtis is immediately going to kind of try to stop him in his rant towards him and say, "Wait a minute! I couldn't help but overhear as I was passing by that door over there that you're here for business with your dad, not for Anna. So don't get your priorities twisted here, sir."
Are you eavesdropping on me?
No, but I heard what I heard. You clearly were not trying to be secretive or quiet about it because I could hear down the hallway.
I cannot believe this. That you're snooping around, eavesdropping on me. I bring you to this party to meet important people that, by the way, good for your career too. And you're eavesdropping on me? Does our friendship mean nothing now? That you don't even trust me?
You weren't upfront about this out the gate.
I can't even with you right now. I'm so mad right now. I can't even talk. And when she gets out here, you are to bring her directly to me. There's people here she needs to meet. No more screwing around. Look at me and tell me you understand.
I'm non-responsive. I just keep staring straight at him.
Swear to God, if she doesn't get, and he floats off. And Anna comes out. She's drying her hands with a towel, and she hands it to the attendant in this private home. Hands it to the attendant. She goes, "What is all the yelling? Who are you yelling at?"
Yeah, Anna, Lucas was behind that door, and what I heard from Lucas was that he was here for business with his dad as well. But he is being a true arsehole with me about trying to put you in front of some important people. And I don't like his attitude. I don't like his attitude one bit.
So again, this was a longer segment to show, but it needs to be because of what's being shown. So my question is, as we go through this scene with these characters interacting, and as tensions grow higher and higher, as voices rise in pitch with the emotion of the moment, as characters push and pull on each other, where are the dice? Are they necessary? How would this scene change if they were involved? The next thing to consider about this same scene is that we didn't roll any dice. We didn't invoke the system. We just role played. Okay. This was an entire scene of role play. Great. How was the role play conducted? In which voice were the players speaking as their characters? The game master in a variety of different character roles, and Nick in one character role. In what voice were they speaking? Why? What effect does this have?
The quick scan of the room when I walked in, I've seen some people that I've reported on or have taken pictures of. I mean, there's some pretty big people in this room. It won't hurt. It won't hurt at all. My quarrel is with our friend, and we'll figure that out when we get back.
I don't like it when you and Lucas fight.
I know, but that's between him and I. It's not about you. We're here for you, Anna. Don't worry about that.
We only have each other.
Absolutely.
It's us against the world. We've said that so many times.
I do remember that, and you have my word. I will always be there.
Go make up with him, please. Like I don't like it when you guys fight. And you see her like look over your shoulder, and you can tell she has that look of I recognize somebody. And you turn to the left, and you see this woman. She's got this long black hair. She's young, like early 20s, dressed in a evening gown, without a kimono on top of it, like the madame. And she goes, "Oh, Anna!"
This is just a short question. please consider. You might have to rewind to go back and get the answer. The answer is present. Who decided that Curtis looks to the left?
You made it. And you have not met this woman, but immediately Anna goes, Emily. "Ah, you know what? Lucas said you were going to be here. I didn't realize you were going to be here." So this is Emily Webster, who is the agent that Lucas's father arranged to take Anna on as a client. The only reason she has this audition is because she's one of Emily's clients. Emily is an up-and-comer, very, very successful for her age, talent agent within the jazz scene. So even though you've never met her before, you quickly piece together who she is.
Back at the beginning of this video, we talked about setting the stage, being a bridge between our modern sensibilities and 1921. Well, this is connected to that idea of providing information to the player. Right? So this is a character that the player character knows. This is the first time we are meeting them in play. This is the first time we're going to interact with this non-player character. And now we're receiving the information about this character. There are other ways to do this. It's important and valuable, I think, to think about the effect it has. Consider having a list of contacts, even if they're on easy to use file cards. Say here, right? Here's all the people that your character knows. And then at any given moment, they can freely rifle through them. How does that work in this kind of environment? How does that work in any kind of environment compared to the idea of parsing out the information about these different non-player characters as we go and play, as it becomes relevant? Each one has its particular characteristics. I don't want to say strengths and weaknesses because that suggests something which might not be true. Just consider, this is how it was done. How did that benefit play? Is there another technique that could have been employed in this spot that would work differently? Not necessarily better, but differently. And how would it be different?
What is Curtis going to do?
Go cry in a corner because she's playing games with me. Bring me back to high school. Oh shit, this is on Twitch too. Joking.
Hey, DW Danimal, I saw you in the chat, man. I'm really happy that you had a chance to watch us live, and thanks for coming. Go ahead. So what is Curtis going to do?
For this interjection, it's obvious that something has happened to the atmosphere. Something has happened to the level of play on which the players are playing. It's also obvious that it is enjoyed. The players laugh with each other, they enjoy it. And then a moment is taken to communicate with someone else through the technology of the streaming service. Okay, so this happened. There's a whole bunch of things that we could talk about, right? Should the players be so disciplined that nothing makes them break character? Well, that is a definite way to approach things. And what effect does it have? And when is it appropriate? And why would we do it? Or as what happens here, we quickly switch out and switch back. And this is done, the switching out happens naturally, right? And enjoyably, and it's a shared moment of fun. And then switching back is a definite decision on the player level. Let's get back into play from this out of play position. Right? Now, sometimes switching can be completely seamless. We can rise out of whatever level we're playing on with great intensity, and we can just slide back into it. Right? So during play, we're going to see lots of switchings between states, between levels of play, a character level, an understanding of the situation or the placement of characters and things and objects, an understanding of story and how we might want the story that we're making now in the moment to go in the future. And maybe there's some mechanical thing that allows us to influence how things are going to go. And we have to spend time talking about them player to player rather than role-playing as character in the moment. We are doing different types of play at different times, and we're switching effortlessly or with some effort or with some decision from time to time. So this particular scene, it's not particularly egregious. It's not particularly long. It's just a really useful example for bringing up these questions. Right? On what level are we playing? How do we move between the levels? Why do we move between the levels? What effect does it have?
Curtis is going to go mingle. He's going to go make himself known. Kind of, he's got an opportunity to meet people that he otherwise wouldn't get to talk to. Whether he writes it down or not in his notepad, I think he's going to kind of double dip there while still keeping an eye out, making that priority number one. But
so everybody was a stranger at the beginning. But at this point, you have obviously known Madame de Tasson, who's talking to a mixed group of men and women. More not rich people than, and just to give you a sense of this, Curtis, there's like, it's like 2 to 1, almost 3 to 1, like 3 rich person to the token artist or the token person who's obviously not rich, you being one of them. Right? It's definitely dominated. This entire room is dominated. So you've got her talking to a group. Amazingly, the professor and Tanaka are still talking to each other. Lucas is talking to a group of men who you can tell by the way that they're dressed. Definitely some sort of businessmen. They have hats in their hand, and the rest are strangers. So where are we headed?
This is another long section, again, with reason. So as we go through, it probably seems on first listen like there's been a sudden change, like suddenly the gates have been thrown open. We're moving away from description. We're moving away from establishing the scene into the main character acting within it. So we have 2 questions, one at the beginning of my recording and one at the end, where the game master is asking the player directly as game master to player, and this is a technique, and why is it used and what effect does it have? What are you going to do is basically the thrust of things. So this whole section opens with, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to talk to? This kind of situation. And there's some interaction about some not really available options, but what the current environment looks like in terms of, in a sense, points of light, right? Characters that stand out, such as the professor and the visiting dignitary, Mr. Tanaka, right? So we have these establishments. We have Emily and Anna disappearing off into some crowd. We assume that the hostess is circulating around somewhere. Lucas is around somewhere, these kinds of things. So that's this scene. Now we're going to get the answer of all these different places that you could go, all these different types of people you could talk to. What are you going to do?
let's go find a random set of strangers, a pod of a 2 to 1, or somebody I might maybe fit in with. That's maybe not too eclectic.
That's going to be tough.
Okay.
You definitely don't fit in here.
You know what, though? I'm going to put myself out there. Damn, is there something to roll that I could check to see if I'm... Yeah, he's a reporter. He's just going to go find the nearest group.
Yeah.
Throw a dart on the wall.
I find this scene pretty interesting. So why do I find this scene interesting? Who do you want to go talk to? Well, I'm going to try and find some group that I can fit in with best. Well, we've established that there's a very large disparity in social tiers in this particular group. So that has to be challenging, right? So there's a reminder about how challenging that might be. We bring this reality into the players and characters' face. So you look around, I'm going to go mingle, and then, right? So this is occurring on multiple levels here. And then you still have to solve this problem. You can't just stand there, right? That would be a terrible feeling. We've all maybe had that feeling in social events. So this is a very real and useful way to phrase things. And so then we see the usual sort of behavior. This is a brand new character that I've never used before. What can this character do? We look at the character sheet. Well, looking at the character sheet is definitely something that players do. What effect does it have? Why is it necessary? Is there something that we can do to make it easier, faster, more convenient, more comfortable, more effective, whatever? Is there some way that we can take this established behavior, this regular behavior among new players and old players alike, and do something with it that helps us in some way? Or if there's some part of it that we don't like, that reduces whatever it is about it that we don't like. But what I really like is that the player says, you know what, this is who I am. This is the character that I am. I'm a reporter, or he's a reporter. And suddenly the way is clear. I know what to do. I think this is a very valuable moment. Now, the character has been given the opportunity to act. The player has made a decision about how to act. What happens next?
You head over to just this group that maybe is having kind of a little bit of an awkward silence. So maybe it's a good place where you could kind of inject yourself, into that conversation. So you start to head over. Emily has brought Anna over to a group of like 8 men. And she's kind of put Anna in the middle of this group. And, as you get closer, you see, and tomorrow she's auditioning for the Turner Orchestra. And, maybe after a glass of wine or so. And just incidentally, everybody's drinking alcohol, which for a year and a half now has been prohibited. But really, the reality of prohibition at this point is poor people couldn't buy a drink, right? If you were rich, you could definitely get a drink. So, sometime tomorrow, she's got auditioning, so she's droning on and on. Curtis, as you're walking back into like the main room, you hear a loud noise, and it's just a thud.
Okay, this is a turning point in this particular scene. There's a lot that we'll have to talk about around this loud thud, but the first interjection I'd like to make is Curtis has established that he's going to go talk to someone. He's keeping an eye on Anna, of course, and we learn all of these things that are going on to Anna. We kind of maybe the sense of a ring of party goers circling her like sharks, and we don't hear any sound from her. We hear that someone's talking for her, and I think that we should consider this as a particularly effective or useful way to establish this kind of personality in a large group scene, right? What happens to the stated action? On your way to do something, something else happens. Now, let's talk about how that something else happens is introduced. Let's listen to a little more.
And everybody hears it. And everybody's heads turns to the front door. You hear it a second time. And the door bursts open, and you can see that none of the deadlocks were on, right? It was just the doorknob lock that was done. And you can see that the casing on the edge of the door that was holding that door, like allows the door to be closed, you can see the wood shattering as it comes through. The door flies open, and this man bursts through the room.
Okay, I think that's enough. So this interjection is really about interruption. And the questions I'd like to raise about this moment are, how is this interruption handled? They're all about that. So obviously this is somewhat of a violent interruption. There was normalcy in the party, and then suddenly this very unexpected event happens. It happens with surprise. How does the game master, in more ways than just saying something like, and you are surprised, how does the game master transmit this surprise? How are the various senses of the character, and how are those characters' senses connected to the understanding of the player in this moment? It's not all verbal. Why? Why was this done? How else could it be done? What effect does it have? Right? Also consider the pacing of the delivery of the information. Is it in a continuous stream? This happens, this happens, this happens, this happens? Or is there a broken or staggered pace? And what effect does this have, right? Is there a different way to do it? Why would we do it differently? What effect would that have? Right? So we have some visual cues. We have some auditory cues. Right? We have some cues about the reaction of the other people at the party, because it's not an otherwise empty room except for the PC. So we have all of this information, but it also, as a last question, asks you to consider the order in which this information comes. Is it in a chronological, sequenced, highly organized way? Or is it presented out of sequence with varying levels of volume and importance and speed and certainty? Why would we do this? Is there another way to do this? What effect does it have?
And he's got like this feverish, messy hair. He's got this expression on his face that he could be 20, he could be 50. His face is almost like twisted. And he's got clothes on. It's not a suit, but it's a decent, nice shirt and slacks. But it's caked with dirt. Absolutely caked with dirt. And he bursts through the room, and everybody's just shocked as it happens. And he bursts into the room and he goes, "It's speaking to me. It won't stop speaking to me." Let's go to break. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Now imagine, as you are watching this segment, as we transition from the door bursting open into our description of why the door has burst open, we're expecting that now the character will get to spring into action or have action sprung upon them or something along those lines. Well, instead, we have essentially a cliffhanger. The way this session is streamed, it has a break in the middle. And so that break has to happen at some point or another. And so this was a great place to time it. So the notion of the cliffhanger is the question I put before you now. It's very effective when used appropriately, such as here. It's a lot of fun. Take a look at the player, Nick's face, as he recognizes what has just happened, right? The doors burst open. He's getting himself ready. You can see I think he's looking at his character sheet, getting ready for whatever's going to happen next. And then, but we're going to take a break, right? There's a huge release of tension. There's this surge of reaction and enjoyment. And then there's going to be a 10-minute break. And then we're going to come back in and ramp up in some way or another. And if you're curious about how that all goes after the break, I invite you to watch the entire thing on the Third Floor Wars channel. But I've included this clip in this video simply to bring up the question of the cliffhanger or the end of session or just before break or a major transition. There are a variety of ways in order to bring about a satisfying end to the moment that people can enjoy that clearly forestalls, well, yeah, but, or one more thing, or right, that can neatly bookend and allow people to get up and go to the bathroom or answer the phone or, check on their kids or whatever, right? That has functions with the play group and not just with what's happening in play. So there are ways to do this. What are they? How can it be done differently? Why would it be done differently? Why would it be done this way? And when? And what effect does it have?
Put on a fresh pair of clothes and head out to the living room.
So nobody's in the living room.
And go, is it typical for Anna to still sleep? Oh,
Someone's knocking at the door.
I beeline to the door. Is there a peephole or a...
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. You peep through that and you see nobody.
I slowly open the door.
So you realize the reason you saw nobody is because there's a boy at the door who is well below your eye line. And he's kind of scrawny looking, kind of pieced together clothes. So nobody bought him an outfit. He's got a shirt, he's got pants, He's got a jacket on, and he's holding this brown package. So it's like a box that's wrapped in brown paper. He goes, delivery.
Yes. For who?
And he pulls the card from his jacket and he goes, this is for the concerned young gentleman who lives here. Are you the concerned young man that lives here?
Yes.
Okay. Here. And he kind of, we don't need a psych roll for this. Like, this thing is a hot potato. He's like, here. And he shoves it like physically into your stomach.
Who told you to drop this off, little boy?
Oh, hey, man, yeah, man. Like that's like delivery confidential, right? Like I'm paid like just to deliver it. I'm not supposed to like give information and stuff.
Would a time period amount of money make you? Yeah, I was gonna say $1, but I was like, is that enough? Is that too much? A quarter?
Sure.
A shekel? I don't know. A lira?
A pound?
A pound? Yeah.
Let's do this. Let me start with a psychology roll first.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let's see if I notice something. I blew my wad earlier. I'm sorry, Craig.
That's all right, man. All right. So now, so you pull out $1, which is like legit, right? And let's do a persuade with advantage. So you'll gain it. I think it's a extra die. I forget how the terminology is in Call of Cthulhu. When you click on it, it gives you an option, I think, to add a die.
Bonus die +1.
Mm-hmm. Bonus die. That's what it is. Ooh, nice. He goes, oh yeah. He snatches the $1 out of your hand. He goes, I was at the Hotel Astoria, and and this woman in the kimono gave me the package. But like, dude, like, don't tell. She tipped me a lot more than this. So like, don't say anything. And like, it's got to be important, right? Because the guy outside wanted it too. So here, just like, I don't want it. You just take it.
All right. Thank you, little guy. I'd recommend you stay away from the Astoria Hotel. Astoria?
Hey, man, it's like there's like a back door because I don't want to fucking deal with that guy.
Yeah. I'll actually let you use the fire escape out the window because New York City has those. So I'm going to let him come through the house and go down the window and
appreciate
go the back
it, man.
way.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Remember like 1,000,000 years ago, way back at the beginning of this video, when I said that the intention was for it to be brief? Don't worry, we're almost done. Now, this clip has been quite long, and I let it run uninterrupted for a reason. And that reason was to highlight the difference in what people like to call agency for the character, for Nick as the player. Right? Compare the feel of what are you going to do now in the party scene at the Astoria Hotel compared to the what are you going to do now, what do you want to do feel in the brownstone apartment at the end of the episode. Right? There's a world of difference, and it's not just in what the game master says and how the two players interact with each other. There is a mood, there is a feel about it. We can sense that the game master wants to know what you're going to do, that there are some things that exist in your environment, and as you move around the environment, you might encounter them, and how is that going to matter to you and why? So I just bring this up for that purpose. But also, right at the very end, we have a wonderful example of things about how role-playing is or can be a certain amount of, a user-controlled amount of, collaborative, right? So here we've had really no description of the brownstone other than its physical dimensions. And we're going to get more description of the brownstone in later episodes. But right here, we're just relying on our shared sense of what is a New York brownstone. So the player is kind of navigating in a rather ambiguous space. And there is no indication of where the windows might be, right? Are these brownstones tightly packed against each other, or are there windows on the sides and this sort of thing? None of this matters. We're imagining being in a brownstone. We're imagining there being more than one entrance. We're imagining it being possible to pass through the brownstone and get out an alternate entrance. And our little NPC delivery boy asks to be allowed to use that alternate entrance because he's afraid of someone outside, right? And the player takes it upon themselves to edit in their sense of what this brownstone is like. He does it with a kind of a questioning air, because buildings in New York have those, and rather than get into a yeah, but, or a well, actually, or in this case, or any of that stuff, this, let's call it a dramatic edit, right, is embraced and we move forward, right? Now, there are times when you would or would not want to embrace this kind of change, or you would want to challenge something that's coming from another player. And this includes players challenging the description of a game master when it simply doesn't make sense. And I don't mean challenge in the, hey man, I just mean that in some way in play, it is sometimes necessary to pause things and clarify. So, as usual, what are other ways to do this? Why would we do them differently? Why would we do them this way? And what effect do they have? Okay, there's one more thing.
How you doing, man?
Wow. Wow. This one-on-one session, awesome. I can't lie. I am stoked about what we've done today and where this is going.
Yeah, I am struggling a little bit because I feel like it's way too much the Craig show. Which, if you watch me GM, I like throwing the spotlight around. I feel like I don't know. So let me preface that. I've had a blast. But does it feel like the Craig show to you?
Not at all. Not at all. Because for as much as I'm enjoying what I think you're interpreting the Craig show to be, is giving me the lay of the land, the situation and the decision, giving me the opportunity to make decisions where I need to make decisions and ask questions and dive in. I mean, especially on session 1. I mean, there wasn't a big session 0 for this like we're used to.
Yeah.
This was important to build the relationship between these characters and introduce, this reminds me of episode 1 of like Game of Thrones, where you're like, bam, a word vomit of last names and family lineage, and you go, this is not for me. But but this is helping me get used to all the characters and the names and the people, and start building towards something that is that you have in mind. So with the session 1, I think this is perfect.
So let's start with Curtis's mindset. And
okay, this last element of the session is something that's near and dear to my heart. It's a big part of actual play on this channel, and something I would like to see more of out there. I think it's a valuable resource, and I think it's a valuable part of a healthy play group, regardless of whether or not it gets recorded. That it happens, I think, is important. So what we've seen is just the beginning, and it's ramping up into the post-game discussion. I also do pre-game discussions, but the post-game discussion is usually the one that's most focused on what we have done, how we have done it. And it's excellent to go through, just starting with impressions, as we see here, and then get into more and more specifics about different elements of play or different aspects of character, or this is a mystery, so handling clues, or if there was combat, what was combat like? Was it too fast, too slow, too difficult? Do you have any questions? Those kinds of things. Just moving through piece by piece all the elements of this particular instance of play, and not just giving ourselves a pat on the back and celebrating play, but doing something constructive to make sure that the good times we had in this instance of play can be transferred forward and preserved, and the more questionable or shaky or less enjoyable times can be understood, and we can work to resolve them. I think it's a very healthy and wonderful thing, which I wanted to share here at the end of this video. So this brings us to the end of this kind of Game Master feedback part of this series, where we simply look at the video that's been shared with us and point out some different techniques or different moments or different moods or different things that happened in the clip and ask questions about them. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have responses of your own, please include them down below in the comments, and let's get a dialogue going. But otherwise, there are more videos in this series to come. Until then, take care.